Welcome back to White Buffalo Riding School. We're going into our second part of our lunging segment. In this video, we'll be exploring some different ways that you can use lunging. So first, we're going to talk about using lunging to teach the rider. We'll have two different riders. One of them is going to be doing exercises without hands, and the other one is going to be doing exercises without stirrups. So we'll have control of the horse on the lunge line, and the rider can focus on their exercises without worrying about where the horse is going or how fast they're going. Then we'll have two horses that are going to demonstrate how you can use lunging to further horses' training and education. The first horse doesn't really know how to lunge. He gets a little confused on the lunge line, so we'll be using a rider to help teach him how to lunge. And then the second horse knows a little bit more about lunging, and he'll be able to show us some of the more advanced things that you can do on the lunge line. So with that, let's go to the barn.
Okay, students, so here you'll recognize Missy Weaver. She's on the lunge line. I have one of my young students. His name is Alec, and he's agreed to be in this video, and he is doing rising trot on the correct posting diagonal, what we call airplane wings. So this tests your balance. Remember how we tell you to grab the mane, hold on, lean on your hands? Eventually, we take all that away. Here he's doing different movements and still maintaining his rhythm as well as his balance. Riding requires balance. You can see Missy's okay with all this. She's not upset. She said, the kid, I don't even know he's there because he's staying in the center of my back, balanced behind my shoulders, and he's keeping rhythm with it. Notice that Missy's pretty good on the lunge line. So now, Alec has agreed to do canter work on the lunge line. This is new for him. So we're going to be patient as we're going to have just a brief moment of confusion when we ask Missy for the canter. So when we ask, she has to have an ability to identify the aid, which is the outside leg in the seat. Notice Alex is posting into it. That's not what we want. So I'm sure I told Missy canter, and then she goes, oh, voice command. Now here you see Alex starting to have some problems. He can't decide whether to sit down or stay up. And in the process, Missy's head came up, which shows it's affecting her back. The trot work must be flawless so that the canter then can develop so the horse doesn't mind. So now Alex is going to grab some mane and stabilize his balance so Missy isn't quite so compromised. And here we go. And you got to feel it. It's a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So here the lunge line and Missy has allowed this young rider to feel the beauty and the wonder of this canter gait, which gives that suspension motion in the air where you suddenly say, my goodness, these horses are powerful. You must ride well. It's required. Right, Missy? I want to have the pony between my leg here, and my hand. So here I have my triangulation with the pony pivoting around me. And I have a rider on. So the rider is to look at the outside ear of the horse to try to keep them from coming in on the circle. Anytime Agnes starts to come in, I will point at her shoulder. And we're going to make our voice commands very distinct. Okay, we're getting ready to trot. And now look up. Have some contact. Okay, and trot. 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 Look out to the outside ear. So the rider has to continue doing all the things that we talk about so our lunge line can stay straight. Notice her position is pretty good, because in a moment we'll take away her stirrups, and this is where we have an opportunity to keep the rhythm. Trot, trot. So your leg is to be there to help keep the pony in a rhythm. And now we're going to end walk. Okay, drop your stirrups. Whoa. Okay, now you have to shape your leg as if you have a stirrup, and you have to be able to maintain that, which is the toe up. Hands may not bounce around. Anytime you feel like they're bouncing, you grab a piece of mane. Okay, rising. We'll go towards the walk. Walk on. And now, trot, trot. Looking at the outside ear, and the leg is staying defined. This is much harder, isn't it, rider? Yep. Yes, it is. A lot more requirement of muscle and leg, but the leg is staying very nice. Now tell your pony to walk. And tell her to walk on. Keep her walking. Keep your position. And now we're going to ask you to sit the trot with no bouncing. So when the rider sits to trot, it's easier actually without the stirrup. Okay, after the trot, trot. It's fine to use the front of the pommel or a grab strap so that the seat stays connected to the saddle and there's no bouncing. And back to rising trot. Back to sitting trot. And walk. So this pony is pretty well, and then she can whoa. She's pretty well behaved on the lunge line, so we can train the rider. We can train the rider some because the pony will follow the commands as to what we're telling her to do. Okay, thank you. Probie, and this is Kara, and she has spent years working with Probie, so the relationship we're counting on to help him be comfortable with this job. And Reagan is going to be assistant number 1 in this work. So they're going to take him out and try to get him on a large circle, and Reagan's going to help keep him out while Kara tries to relax him because he gets a little bit tense. All right, Kara, explain.
Right, so what we're trying to do with Probie is get him used to using the draw reins here.
Side reins.
Side reins, not draw reins. Side reins with the lunging. So I've worked with Probie for a long time, and one thing he struggles with is getting off the forehand, so he's very heavy in the front area. So what these side reins will help him do is to accept light contact in the bit and hopefully come up off the forehand a little more naturally, because right now when I ride him, I have to really kind of force him and manhandle him into that easier place for him to work. So that's what we're doing right now, but as Missy was saying, he's not very comfortable with lunging. It kind of confuses him, and Probie, we know when he gets confused, he acts out and he gets really high and angry and kind of aggressive. So we're trying to make him comfortable with this process so that we can use the side reins and help him on the lunge line as well as in our riding too.
Okay, so here we have Probie on the lunge line. It's taking 2 handlers at this point to try to get him to stay out in a circle. Not because he's mean, because he doesn't understand. The lunge line is something in his early education that was skipped over. So he doesn't quite figure out what are we doing here. Reagan is keeping him out on the 20-meter circle-ish, while Kara is giving him his commands. We're trying to have, since horses are trained off of memory, some sort of a file to go into. So Probie goes, okay, I think I know what we're doing. Horses learn through repetition, so he has to do it over and over. Not just today, but other days, so that it's embedded in his brain, and he can start to identify the factors that says, this is what I am supposed to do. The consistency of the voice, the consistency of the pattern, they all have to stay the same. That's how horses learn. That's how they stay relaxed. And then when they are relaxed, they're able to perform. Kara, you probably can't hear. She's giving commands. I'm sure there was a cluck there with the and trot. To be a handler, you must be fit. Because Reagan has to trot now in her 20-meter circle to keep Probie out. When he doesn't have the handler, we'll see that he wants to cut in, because this is a horse's inclination, is to come into the center, as you've all felt, and stay with the people in the center. That gets them out of work. That gets them their comfort zone. They like being with the group. So here, he has to accept the fact that he is to stay out and perform solo. When we give voice commands and you're given a downward transition command, you want to be sure the inflection of your voice is down. And whoa, if you're going to give an upward transition, you want to be sure that your voice peaks up, like and trot. They look for the sound as well as identifying some of the characteristics of that word. We are not going to put Probie in canter yet because he's not ready. It would just be for showmanship only, not for his training, and that's counterproductive to anything you do. He has a surcingle on. He has a lunge canvassing on. His back is free from the weight of the rider, so he doesn't have balancing issues going on to concern him about this work. It's the purest way to give a horse an opportunity to work under their own legs without worrying about what this rider's doing. And there goes his friend Reagan. So now let's see how Probie does. He's staying out nice at the walk. That's very impressive. And he halted to the voice of Kara. And he's staying politely waiting. Notice Kara has her leg at rest, and then when she asks him for more forward, she's used her voice. If she needs her leg, which is her whip, she will bring it around. So Probie's doing okay, but look at the size of his circle. And then as it starts to disintegrate, he spirals in. And there becomes the problem in his training. So to put this horse at a faster gait, say the canter, would be so counterproductive. It's just not going to be something that's in his work schedule for quite some time. Now Kara is on the horse. So he is going to receive the rider's weight. He's also going to have the advantage of her legs. Little bit of touch of the hand, but we're still hoping that some of that training kicks in. So when we talk about steering a horse, we've mentioned to you all that you utilize your legs, your weight, the structure of your hip to direct their shoulders. A horse does not necessarily go where their head is pointed, but where their shoulders are. So the rider learns to try to direct the horse with all of the body aids, and they're inclusive. So here's Probie even looking in a little bit. There, Kara had to use an opening outside rein to say, don't follow that look and stay out. So in this particular situation, the rider is going to be a huge help to Probie. If I had had my younger rider on him that we saw a few moments ago on Missy, he's no help for this horse because the smoothness of his hands to give them information is not there, nor does he have the use of his legs and body to give information. So this looks very peaceful. It looks a little bit less relaxed. You notice his head's up in the air a tad, because he's feeling and trying to figure out, this rider on my back, are they going to stay consistent so I can relax and lift my back? Transition down, very peaceful, very soft. And notice how Kara grew tall and stopped her hips to augment hoeing. Now, at this point, we put on a piece of equipment called side reins. We're not cranking them in and putting a lot of structure on the shape of Probie because these are new for him. But he is going to feel there is a tension there that is consistent and does not go away with the flexibility from the rider's hand to elbow. So the process of getting the horse comfortable with the things that we're going to use to try to help him. Using any kind of training equipment can be helpful. One must be careful not to rely on that as the method that the horse has to have rather than an aid to trigger the reaction that we're after. Kara is doing the sitting trot now. Please notice that she does not bounce, but her hips are free and her seat follows the motion. It is forward and back, forward and back. It has to be soft and fluid. The legs may not move. The hands may not bounce in the horse's mouth. So you have to have separate ability through your body from your leg, your seat, and your hands. Now, it's easy to say this stuff. It's really hard to do this stuff. It takes a lot of practice.
Okay, so this is Axel Rose. He is a little more experienced than Probie is. He has clearly been lunge before, even though it's been a while, so we're getting him back into it. He used to show in California, so he's got a little more education and a little more experience. So as we start him on the lunge line, what we're going to work on first is making him halt, because last time I lunged him, he would not halt on the lunge line. So we're going to start there, and then we're going to move up and do a little walk trot and maybe get up to canter, because he can do that on the 20-meter circle.
Here's another subject. We're bringing out Axel Rose. His name, if you know who Guns N' Roses is, should tell you a lot. He has multiple personalities. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He came to us from California. Obviously, the owner has put in some good training. It's in there. He tries to hide it. So, on the lunge line, we'll see a little bit more sophisticated work from him, but we'll see moments when he'll try to be the star of the band. And then we have to correct him. Here, he's working on his hose. That's something he doesn't particularly like to do under saddle. So this is a good place to reinforce that information to him, to give him practice to behave correctly, just like a child needs. understand the word, physically respond what we want, and then I'm sure Kara on the outside is praising him. Horses need reinforcement, positive reinforcement, so that they know that they are doing the correct thing. And here he's getting a lot of assists, as Probie did, from the riders and being successful. He also wants a treat, which he's not getting. We'll be a little bit more aggressive in display of this horse because his training will allow us to go into all three gaits that we work in. When you have a horse and you have them when they're young, it is such an advantage if you start their education early. When you get a horse at 7, 8, 9 years old, or you have a horse that is of that age bracket or even older and you're trying to reschool, that is much more troublesome. You're having to undo layers and then put in information. And as I had said before, a horse's memory is so solid that you can cover it up, but you can't erase it. And here already, he's starting to mildly start to notice that he doesn't have the restriction from the outside aid. So he's kind of drifting in. And that is the nature of almost any horse that is not a schoolmaster. And then they create a problem for the handler. And here we have to be a little bit more. Now, come on, out you go. I'm sure Reagan is telling the word out. She needs to get back where the motor is, where the back legs are. So here he wants to face her and hang out. She's got to get back in the back seat and drive him forward again. So the quickness of the handler is paramount to making this thing successful. The long lunge line is your friend and your enemy at the same time. So being able to ribbon quickly is something you have to practice. Right here, Axel shows his education. So what he's doing is called joining up. He knows, but when he joined up in his early training, he got out of work. By joining up, we mean that the horse lifts their back by lowering their head, stretches out their neck out of their shoulder. They start to chew and salivate to show that they are accepting the work. Now, he's not so much on his forehand. He's actually bringing his neck, which is long, out of his shoulders. And then he said, I did this. Why am I not done? Because we're not done yet. Reagan's working very hard to keep that lunge line off the ground. I cannot overstress how easy it is for that to get wrapped around their legs. And once that happens, the horse thinks some monster in the ground has reached out and grabbed them by their legs, and then you have a rodeo. The bad thing about that is, with their memory, they don't forget that rodeo. So they're always wondering when this monster is going to come again. You have to be careful to always give good experiences to the horse. So you have to be thoughtful, plan out what you're going to do, and have an adjustment for another plan when it doesn't work. And there he's trying to come in again. And again, if I were to say the most difficult thing going on here is his changing the shape of his circle so much so that the lunge line becomes almost at times a worrisome piece of equipment. Without it, they're just going to leave us, so we have to use it. So now we're looking at trying to put him in the canter. I don't know if we've ever actually cantered him on the lunge line, so we're all in this together for the first time. Reagan's always adventurous, so she's up for this show. So we're going to be surprised. What's going to happen? Is Axel Rose going to be good? Is he going to be naughty? I'm so worried. What's going to happen? And here we go. Oh my goodness. Look at that soft transition and that rhythmic canter. 3 beat. He even picked up the correct lead, which is the inside leg. And now he's showing his education. Notice the lunge line is being able to stay straighter because he's got momentum forward. All of these things come into play. And now he says, let me look at you, and I want you to tell me how good I am. Repositioning yourself constantly to try to find that angulation to the horse is something in the early stages of lunging that you have to keep working on. Safety first. Don't let those lunge line get around his leg, but also try to maintain your dominance.
So I think the base is so much steadier than what we have with Probie. You just have a little bit of personality from him, which is fixable. To fix the things he's doing, you're going to have him in closer so you can have more impact on him. Okay. But the fact that he's quiet with the canter, quiet after the canter, I think fairly responsive to the upward points, not so much the downward, but that's characteristic of what you find when you learn how to ride. So I'm impressed. I'm impressed with him. And looky there, he gets a little paycheck. So for this horse, this is very good because he is a bit of a clown. But again, he had more work done earlier to him than Probie's ever had done. And those things matter hugely. So lunging, huge skill at all levels, whether you're going from breaking to early training to more advanced work or to the rider. It's got a place on many layers. Okay, thank you.